Ja, einen schönen guten Abend wünsche ich euch. Bevor ich es vergesse, weil wenn ich jetzt anfange zu reden, werde ich es garantiert vergessen. Es gibt Pausen, also nach dem Konzert von Katharina ist eine Pause von 10 bis 15 Minuten. Dann gibt es ja einen Talk irgendwie mit Katharina und anschließend noch den Film Touches Sound. Und nach dem Talk mit Katharina ist dann auch nochmal so 10, 15 Minuten Pause. Könnt ihr euch noch in Ruhe irgendwie was zu trinken holen. Ja, schönen guten Abend. Andreas Döhler ist mein Name. Ich gehöre zum Trio, zum Konzepttrio von Female to Empower. Neben irgendwie Nina Rüb vom Silent Green und Bettina Ellerkamp vom Silent Green. Und das ist, ja, es fühlt sich alles komisch an, jetzt heute hier zu sitzen. Ich habe im Vorfeld kurz mal dann irgendwie überlegt, wann war ich jetzt eigentlich das letzte Mal auf einem Konzert im Silent Green. Und dann war es echt total absurd. Das letzte Konzert im Silent Green war dieses großartige Sound-Performance-Konzert von Hildur Gudnadottir über Tschernobyl. Also ich meine, katastrophaler geht es ja eigentlich auch gar nicht und beziehungsweise über eine Bedrohung, die so unsichtbar ist, und zu dem Zeitpunkt war das ja irgendwie dann halt völlig irgendwie unvorstellbar. Ich meine, jeder weiß ja irgendwie, Tschernobyl hat ja auch immer noch so eine Sperrzone, dass ab März dann quasi unsere Kulturorte halt, die uns so am Herzen liegen, auch in gewisser Weise zu Sperrzonen werden, die wir nicht mehr betreten dürfen für Monate lang. Deshalb ist es jetzt was ganz Besonderes. Fühlt sich aber trotzdem komisch an, irgendwie heute hier zu sein und euch begrüßen zu dürfen. Aber ich denke mir, es ist auch wichtig, halt so eine Veranstaltung, wir haben im Vorfeld lange irgendwie halt auch immer terminig geguckt und wie geht man jetzt mit der ganzen Situation um. So eine Veranstaltung, die man wirklich jetzt nur drinnen machen kann, auch irgendwie drinnen mit allem irgendwie Respekt vor der Pandemie irgendwie durchzuziehen, weil es auch, glaube ich, irgendwie wichtig ist halt, dass wir jetzt so anfangen, irgendwie diese Sperrzonen halt so Stück für Stück wieder irgendwie zu öffnen halt, also uns irgendwie halt wieder einfach, wir müssen uns einfach dieser Situation irgendwie stellen und das ist so diese Sperrzone und Kulturorte, da müssen wir jetzt irgendwie wieder rein, weil sonst verlieren wir, glaube ich, eine ganze Menge, wenn wir diese Sperrzonen erstmal nur in unserem Kopf haben. Aber trotzdem ein Riesendank an alle, die jetzt hier mitgezogen haben. Ein Riesendank natürlich an Katharina, die das Konzert gleich irgendwie geben wird. Riesendank auch an Diana McCarty, die den Talk irgendwie im Anschluss irgendwie moderieren wird und am Samstag auch nochmal irgendwie einen Talk hier moderieren wird. Ein Dank aber auch jetzt schon, ich weiß nicht, ob der eine oder andere von euch auch noch die nächsten Tage da sein wird, an ja, alle weiteren irgendwie Künstlerinnen, die involviert sind. Morgen irgendwie Pamela Owusu-Brenja, irgendwie die den Afro-X-Pop-Abend irgendwie kuratiert hat und Juba und Nora irgendwie eingeladen hat und dann noch am Samstag irgendwie der Background-Sängerinnenabend mit Kat und Elke Brauweiler. Aber ganz ehrlich, irgendwie ein riesen Dank, irgendwie muss ich sagen, geht wirklich auch an dieser Stelle ans gesamte Team vom Silent Green, speziell an Nina Rüb und Tina irgendwie Ellerkamp, weil ich meine, mit diesem ganzen Extra-Stress, den sie sich da jetzt auch reinziehen mussten, irgendwie um überhaupt so eine Veranstaltung wie heute zu organisieren, da kann man nur sagen, Chapeau. Und ohne irgendwie halt dieses Commitment wäre das alles überhaupt irgendwie in keinster Weise irgendwie möglich geworden. Und dafür irgendwie nochmal ein Riesendank auch an Bennett für die technische Umsetzung und an das gesamte Team halt vom Silent Green. Dank an dieser Stelle auch, normalerweise bin ich jetzt nicht immer so der große Dankessager, aber an dieser Stelle aber ehrlich gesagt auch ein Dank ans Musikboard, die die Veranstaltung finanziell unterstützt haben und aufgrund der Situation doch äußerst unbürokratisch und flexibel auch auf irgendwie die ganzen Terminverlegungen reagiert haben. Also das war eine ganz wunderbare irgendwie Zusammenarbeit auch. Ja, und dann noch ein großer Dank an euch, dass ihr heute hier seid und ich wünsche euch einfach irgendwie einen anregenden Abend und gut. Noch was vergessen? Ich gucke mal kurz auf meinen Zettel. So. Nee, ich glaube, das war so im Großen und Ganzen. Ja, und dann jetzt ein herzlicher Applaus für Katharina Ernst.
So, thank you for staying. Danke, dass ihr euch bleibt. Ich bin Diana McCarty und ich moderiere eine Diskussion mit Katharina Ernst. Zuerst danke für das tolle Konzert. Meine erste nach der Zeit. Ja, so, ja. Ich sollte lernen, wie man tanzt im Stuhl und mag nicht so Luft, nicht so viel Atem. So, ja. Für alle im Internet, da gibt es auch eine Menge da, irgendwo auf die anderen Ende von einer Internetleitung, wireless, von Screen oder Handy. So danke für die Mithören und Mitteilen. Und Izzy, wenn du bist wieder wach, geh ins Bett. Ich weiß, das ist echt cool für dich, eine Schlagzeugerin zu hören, aber es ist Zeit für Bett. Ja, so ich weiß nicht, wie viele Leute sind hier. Wir fangen an auf Deutsch, wir tauschen Englisch und Deutsch. Ich hoffe, dass euch Geduld hat mit meinem Deutsch. Und ich weiß, da gibt es auch so Españoles aquí, so bienvenidos. So, yeah. First, so thanks a lot for this really cool concert. Katharina Ernst here at Female to Empower. I'm just going to go quickly, thank you to Andreas, Nina, Bettina, the Silent Green team, and the Female to Empower team. I will say, in case you're here to learn about what it's like to be a female drummer, you're going to be disappointed because we're not going to talk about that. We're very great. I think Katharina and I are both happy that this Female to Empower event is here and that it's being organized and that it's supported by the Music Board of Berlin. But I think that's already enough, and that gives us the freedom to simply talk about like drumming and improvisation and art and theory. So.
Cool, I'm happy to talk about that. I have to say my Spanish is really bad, so I'm not gonna make it for Spanish, but I will try in English, and also ich werde es versuchen auf Deutsch hinzukriegen. Yeah, so I'm happy to talk whatever,
okay,
about whatever.
So, okay, du bist ein Künstler, Schlagzeuger, Improvisieren und auch du hast studiert Bildende Kunst in Wien. Und das ist lange hinterher. So bei mir von dem Konzert, du bist nicht nur Schlagzeuger, das ist so Musikerin als ein Niveau, das hat viel zu tun mit elektronischen Apparaten. Und so, wie fängt das an? Weil das ist dein Medium, ein Teil von deinen Mediums, weil du bist auch interdisziplinär als Künstlerin. Und sag mir, so wie geht das mit dem Schlagzeug? Wie ist das entwickelt als Schlagzeugerin mit die elektronischen Aspekten zur Mitarbeit? Weil das ist dann so ein bisschen One-Woman-Show zuerst, okay? So, wie das kommt.
Also, ich habe ja als Kind begonnen, Schlagzeug zu spielen, mit 9. I started drumming when I was 9. Und ich habe lange Zeit überhaupt keine Bands gehabt und dann verschiedene Bands. I played alone for a long time, but then in several bands. After 6 years, I started to play with bands, and then ich habe mich immer schon für Polyrhythmik und also immer schon sehr früh für Polyrhythmik interessiert und für Polymetrik, so komplexe rhythmische Systeme. So I started to be interested in complex rhythmic systems quite soon, and I also practiced that a lot, even if I couldn't apply it in the bands I was playing in. After really a long time, this led to the solo, actually, because I wanted to kind of put everything I couldn't apply in the bands in my own solo project, and to have something purely, dedicated to polyrhythm. It started with the polyrhythmic idea, and then it was further developed. Also ich habe irgendwie nach einiger Zeit, die ich schon Polyrhythmik geübt habe, ohne sie in Bands anzuwenden, beschlossen, ich muss ein Solo machen, weil dann kann ich alle meine Ideen da irgendwie umsetzen oder irgendwie so mich ganz auf diese Polyrhythmik konzentrieren.
Und auf dem Grund, dass du dann angefangen mit technischen, Sachen, fangst du zuerst an mit einfach Schlagzeuger oder war das immer dabei?
Nein, das kam erst ziemlich spät. Also eigentlich dadurch, dass ich dann erst mit der Soloarbeit, also ich habe zwar schon, es ist jetzt auch schon wieder 8 Jahre her, dass ich das erste Solokonzert gegeben habe, aber das war so der Anlass eigentlich, und es hat eigentlich begonnen mit einer Tanzproduktion, weil ich dort gefragt wurde. ob ich Solo-Musik für diese Tanzproduktion machen kann. Und ich habe irgendwie das Bedürfnis gehabt, Elektronik da reinzunehmen.
Okay, weil nach der Banderfahrung ist das dann klar, dass man braucht unterschiedliche Elemente. Oder? Und das ist dann, man kann das selber machen oder allein machen mit die elektronische Mithilferin. Oder?
Genau, ich wollte irgendwie das Schlagzeug erweitern und es ist sozusagen auch, also dieser Gedanke, den finde ich einfach auch interessant, dass man sozusagen behaupten kann, was alles zum Schlagzeug gehört. Das finde ich einen mir sehr wichtigen Aspekt bei dem Instrument. Das ist sozusagen, man nennt es Schlagzeug, aber es ist eigentlich nicht ein Instrument, sondern so viele man will.
Ja, ja. Denn ich habe eine Frage, weil das ist auch sehr narrativ. Und dann, das ist auch, du hast eine eigene Sprache entwickelt mit dem Schlagzeug. Und so, das ist so, ich würde sagen, wie ein Filmmacher macht eine eigene Sprache mit dem Stil und so. Wie ist das denn entwickelt bei dir? Weil das ist das, du hast eine eigene Stimme von Schlagzeugen. So.
Keine Ahnung.
Ja, aber ja.
Es kommt so durch die Arbeit, ja. Also dadurch, dass man, also ich finde überhaupt, alles kommt durch die Arbeit. Alles kommt so durch den Kontakt mit dem Material. Also je mehr man irgendwie damit arbeitet, darüber nachdenkt und je tiefer man da geht, desto mehr interessiert man sich dann für spezifische Sachen und entwickelt dann spezifische.
Ja, okay. Zum Beispiel, weil das ist, wenn diese Ausbildung von Kunst, das bildende Kunst ist nicht immer so, was gemalt ist oder so, aber das hat man dann eine Beziehung mit Materialien. Und das ist so, du arbeitest dann, das Stoff ist dann das Ton, das kommt draußen von Hauptinstrument ist dann Schlagzeug, aber mit diesen anderen Elementen, dass du kannst weiter und breiter arbeiten.
Genau.
Ja. Okay. Dann ich habe so, du lest viele und das ist Theorie, das ist konzeptuelle Sachen, weil da war eine kleine Diskussion draußen über die, du hast vielleicht die letzten 2 Lieder, sollte nicht spielen, weil das ist weil ich habe das in deiner Biografie gelesen oder ein Interview, dass du lest Deleuze und Guattari. Und bei mir, dass ich merke, wie ich tanze und wie das Gefühl ist in meinem Körper, so wie das embodied function ist, wie like the bodily reaction to sound. So, das kann ich fühlen. Ich merke, wie ich bewegt. Und da war diesen Lied zuerst und dann kam die nächste Runde, was war eng, aber anders. Und das hat mir erinnert, oder ich denke dann an Difference and Repetition.
Yeah.
Und das war, ja.
I have to say about difference and repetition, I have it in German and I have it in English because both were cheaper than the French version. And I read none of them yet. I opened them a million times and read, like one page and then, I don't know, it didn't happen, I never read the whole book, but I have a very strong relationship because I moved the books from Vienna to Berlin. In Berlin I moved them to a new flat and then to another new flat, so I'm carrying them around. Sometimes I take them even on a travel, because I still hope to read them one day, but yeah. Probably they will, how to say that, vielleicht werden sie einsickern. Nur dadurch, dass sie in meinem Regal, maybe they will soak into
Irgendwo.
my mind, ja.
Irgendwo im Internet gibt es einen Deleuze-Guattari-Freak, der ist total genervt, aber ich finde, das ist absolut die perfekte Art und Weise von Lesen, weil eine Zeit, das ist so was tief ist, dass man kann einfach eine lesen und denken und das ist genug. Ja, so.
Yeah, I didn't think that it was enough, but I just didn't read on.
Well,
And I don't read like I don't read every book like that. So some books I read from the beginning to the end. So.
But for me, I think this is what I found really, because I would never claim any kind of Fachwissenschaft over Deleuze and Guattari, but one of the things I think is also to take it maybe even like intellectual thought space. And it's not something that you have to study and read, it's something that you can absorb at your own pace.
Yeah, I think it's exactly like the music, it just comes from working on it. So yeah, because I think so much about it, and it's for me polyrhythmic structures and polymetric structures are a lot about space. So like the space that it creates when you listen to it, like it's a sonic space, but also conceptually it's a space between, like the interesting thing about polyrhythmic and polymetric music or sounds is that the spacings differ from what we could be used to hearing because we hear it a lot on the radio. So this whole thing makes a difference also because you mentioned your physical reaction to hearing it. I hope that it somehow challenges other ways of moving also because it's against the listening habits and also against the moving habits probably. And I'm very happy if you feel like dancing but you don't know quite how, which also a friend of mine said once, like you want to dance but you don't quite know how, you know, like, yeah, it's super nice if that happens. I'm very happy because you're suddenly thrown into something groovy but you don't know where the groove is.
Yeah, I think the tone technician might have had worries that I was having a fit in the back of the room. So, but this is, for me, this is always because, especially in this moment, and I think because of the film that will come later, the sound, touch the sound. Sorry, yeah, touch the sound is that this is exactly the way that that somebody can relate to music without having a proper hearing infrastructure, right? And that the ways that sound carry is actually through the airwaves, and that it does touch your body, like the sounds actually do touch you. And this is something that it's I don't know how much that affects you behind the setup, but that is something that's how in a really good moment, I think that's what makes people on a dance floor, that also helps give, that's what people mean by, that is a vibe, actually. That's technically what the vibe is. It's not just a made up hippie thing.
That's true, yeah.
So then, because this for me was really very powerful, and I think, I did see I saw some people that looked like they want to move, and I think it's very interesting because I think for many people this is also an early concert going experience in the Corona times, and that it's very different to be in your concert sitting, or in a place where it's not allowed to, basically I think it would not be welcome simply because of the conditions of the moment to stand up and move. But I could see some people squirming because it's, again, this sort of thing okay, it's somehow in a more classical music setting, even though the music is not classical. And
even if it would be another, yeah, I think the process of creating this kind of music is sometimes very close to classical music. Because some of the grooves are super, the pieces are super écrit, written. There's not so much improvisation in some of them. But I think it takes a lot of courage to stand up and dance when everybody's sitting. And it's interesting because I get seated audience and also standing or moving audience, 50-50. And I think if the people are seated, they want to stand up and dance, but if they are able, if the setting is they are standing and they could dance, they're more standing and looking than dancing, it's really this in-between thing. Yeah. So
I wanted to go back. I feel like we're in a hurry, but we're not, right? We have plenty of time. So maybe that's just the urgency in the air, because I wanted to go back to something which is that I know that you do read, you get your influences from a lot of different places, and I wanted to ask you then, what are the influences? Because I wanted to ask you about the difference in repetition, but there is something where it is opening up this space. There is a strain, if you close your eyes again, you do get a kind of visual, there is something really narrative in the way that you're doing music, but it's also narrative in a way that I would call I don't want to use this word, postmodern, and that it opens up a lot of space for different narratives. So for different lines of trajectories to go out on, and that's where you're returning to something. So it's like a story or a memory or a dream that always goes in a different direction. So there's some kind of common starting point, but then it goes there, and then it goes there, and it goes there. And for me, this is what's really interesting, is that I was experiencing your sound, and I've been listening to a lot recently, so this is funnily enough, but this is something that I get, is that there is this almost soundtrack element to it. It's like a soundtrack to a movie that I haven't seen, and I wonder how much that plays a role in that. For are you telling stories secretly?
I don't know, you have to tell me. I have the impression that I I work in an abstract field, and I think that this is what allows people to reflect in it. So probably, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I couldn't answer this. You know, like if you feel that there is a narrative, then I'm sure there is one. You know.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like with people, like some people are good friends, but one of the persons doesn't like the other, or this person likes a particular aspect about a certain place, but if another person goes to that place, he or she wouldn't find that. So it's a little bit like that also, I think, with music in general. Like, it's like an encounter with somebody or with a place, and you could reflect yourself in that.
Yeah, but even if, I mean, this very abstract thing, I think it's like for me there are moods, there are moments in it which, like, I think in a weird way it's like I'm sort of wondering like how you spent the Corona time, and I guess I wonder this in general about drummers, like how do you practice at home, because that must drive your neighbors crazy, and then I
didn't practice.
Yeah.
I stopped practicing. Years ago. No, I'm kidding. No, I was cooking in Corona times. I was cooking 2 meals a day.
Do you drum when you cook? Do you bang on the pot?
I don't actually drum that much these days. I'm painting more, and I'm also composing a little bit. And yeah, at the moment I don't drum a lot outside the stage.
But okay, is there like this? And I'm sorry, because I'm like, I don't mean like that there's a one-to-one story. But do you see a relationship in the images that you paint and the sounds that you make? Like, do you find that, or is that also something that you wouldn't like to create too much of a connection between?
I don't feel that it's necessary to create anything. Somehow I'm more on the side of, you know, just like trying to get through all the stuff that I don't need, and like archaeological work to get to the thing I want to see. Yeah. But I don't ever feel the need to create anything. So I try to find stuff, and I am thinking a lot about form. And it's interesting to think about form from a musical perspective, and then also from a choreographic perspective, and from a painter's perspective, and from a writer's perspective. So it's I think that's probably one of the most interesting things for me, how to handle form. And there is a common understanding for the different disciplines in art, but there is still very particular knowledge about every discipline afterwards. But I feel that they're really together in one point, and then somehow through the medium, it's super interesting to cross-think. For example, if you think the term composition from a painter's perspective or from a musical perspective, it's super interesting.
I bring this up because like a dear friend of mine is a like Hungarian artist in Vojvodina, and she's like a quite well-known regional painter. And of course I know her from the rave scene in Budapest back in the day, and she was actually doing media before the war times, so that was her thing. And I was I was working with the intermedia people. But the funny thing is that like her paintings actually have this very polyrhythmic thing, and it's really funny because like I offended several local or regional art critics by saying that her work was about rave culture and talking about it in terms of a relationship to electronic music, because I believe some people felt like that was a kind of low culture assumption. And I think she's a dear friend, and I was like, she's painting our shared rave experiences. Like, but there's no one-to-one, it's an abstract thing, so in a way I can certainly see a relationship, and there is something extremely musical in her paintings. And then other people found it, but they wanted to relate it to something more spiritual or something. I believe what they believed was more of a compliment, like higher falutin ideas, so something more theoretical. And I was like, it's just a kind, which was not unimportant, like global dance experience of the like dance floor. And it's not that she's painting that's for sure. It's definitely not a representational painting, but these kind of abstractions. But there is a mood, and there's something in it which is like, and that's what I mean. It's like almost a memory. It's almost a dream, and that's what I mean. So it's not. I don't want to call it a one-to-one thing, but where do these things, because you live in the times you live in, right? Like
This is also why I would say, because you said something like, what are your influences, or so, is also a question that is unanswerable somehow. I mean, how could you, of course, I mean, usually there's 1 or 2 or 15 things that impress you more than others, but on the other hand, sometimes you can tell, like, it's who made you who you are. You don't know what made you who you are live, you know.
I would say that, like, there's certainly no, like, morning glory flowers in your sounds, which is not an offense or something. It's just like, this is not the sounds created that someone is, like, this isn't, there's no, maybe someone can, like, shout if this is untrue, you find it different. But I would say that there is no, like, I would say I would find it very interesting if somebody would sort of relate your work to, for example, having a Corona garden balcony of herbs, okay? So, for example, or like some kind of, like, gardening experience with a lot of nice little flowers. I would be really amazed if somebody has, like, would connect, that would be their mental picture. And if anyone is having that experience.
I was gardening in Corona lockdown.
Well, so everyone was, but unhappily.
Was cooking and gardening.
Yeah, if you're cooking or what else. But that's certainly not the experience that's coming out through the sounds, you know. And, like, I don't know what gardening music would sound like, but it's definitely not this. So that's anybody have a, like, complaint about this? Maybe someone in the internet, the DNG, the Releasing Guitar people are also gardeners, and they're writing hate mail right now. So, but no, because this is something like, then it's like, where do you want to take what you're doing? Because if are you going to go back into more drumming or music, or are you going to stick with the painting, or those?
That has been always the question from other people towards me forever. Like, I started painting, and people were asking me, yeah, are you actually going to paint now, or are you drumming? I am always doing everything, even if I don't do it, I have the impression, you know, like, of course, my day has 24 hours and sometimes even less. And I tried very hard to paint, like, during my study. I tried to paint for 4 hours in the morning and then practice 4 hours in the afternoon. It was not it was not such a good idea. It didn't bring a lot, you know. So even if I don't paint for 2 years, I didn't stop painting somehow, you know. It's more, a friend of mine told me something, gave me a picture that I can relate to very well, and it's like, sometimes because I suffered, because I felt like, oh my God, I'm going away from, I don't remember what it was, I think choreography. I'm going away from that, and now I'm only playing music, and it hurts, and I'm not painting, and it also hurts, and it's all painful. And he said, like, but if you imagine it like a room, and actually I imagined a round space, a little bit, this is not round, but almost, you know. And the painting is over there, and the music is over there, and the writing and the reading and everything is somewhere here, and you are just going from one to the other, but everything stays in the same room all the time. And you're just more far probably from painting if you are here and sitting with the writing, or you go, you know, but it stays kind of your space, and you're just, it's this spatial picture for a mindset. And yeah, I can very much relate to that. So there is not exactly, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm somehow going to do everything if I can.
Because, well, for me, I think this choreography is maybe what I could also relate to as a sort of narrative, because in a way, it's like, that's just, in a way, once you have a skill set, it doesn't leave you. So even if it's not at the forefront of what you're doing, there's the skills that you have as a choreographer that inform, you know, that inform a way of doing. It's like, it's not about what you think, it's about how you think. Mm. And I wonder, because this is like, for me, I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna, damn it, you're a narrative. No, but I'm not.
No, I'm interested. What is actually, what do you call a narrative actually?
I think that's where, for me, it's like there is I'm really into alternative narratives, and I'm into acoustic choreographies, and that is, I think, the ways that a line can build up and give the possibility, the potential for some kind of story, which doesn't have to be an eclairo, you know, it doesn't have to be an explanation of something, but it's a kind of journey. And I think this, for me, that's why when you talk about space, I'm very comfortable, because for me, there's the way that you're working acoustically is very much, for me, about journeys. And that's what I mean with narrative structures. It's really, you're going here, you're going back. There's a lot of traveling, and it's also like weirdly like space science fiction-y, like a lot of traveling through time and space. So crossing different, like I call them micro-reality shifts, but it's like suddenly
What
you're
do you call them?
micro-reality shifts. That suddenly, it's not like going forward or backwards, it's like you go a little bit to the left and then you're suddenly back where you were. And so it's not really so much, it's not about going 100 years in the future or 100 years in the past, but it's like, yeah, it's maybe like going up to that diamond and then suddenly being back here and you're not sure how you got here. And then the path, it goes that way instead of that way. But you also can sort of remember that you were going that way. And this is what I mean, it's not like, so for me, I'm not so interested in like, that there is a particular story with fact, but more that there's a journey that is somehow being traveled, and people can travel, maybe it's a different journey for everybody, but there is a kind of, for me, okay, this is what, and I don't want to be too weird about this, but I find this is what I like about work, because it takes you, this is what I like about art, that has this sort of ability to transcend a certain moment and take you someplace else. Okay, and it doesn't have to, like sometimes, work can be really pedagogic and really explain something, but what's nice is when there's an ability for something to take the viewer or whoever is experiencing this work to have this opportunity to be taken away a little bit from this exact moment. And so for me, that's a huge compliment, so I hope it's not
no, thank you. No, I'm just, what I appreciate, for example, I read great books that kind of invite you and take you, and then suddenly you realize that you didn't want to go where it took you. And so I can, if you invite somebody to something that he or she thinks is cool, and then suddenly you realize you don't even know where you are, I think it's interesting. It's interesting to trick the viewer or the reader or listener a little bit. And also, this is perfect with polyrhythmic, you just take out one element and they're like, where am I suddenly?
Yeah, it's like a ladder that leads
It's a nice statement on following and leadership and how things are organized and the power of sound on a body and everything. Yeah.
I would go shortly to power, because we touched a little bit on the one thing that's possibly interesting in relation, and there are a lot of things that are very interesting in relation to gender and art and culture, but we're not talking about most of them. But let's talk about the power of money, because one of the things that I'm kind of curious about is, for you as an artist that works in different fields, is which, like basically that's my bigger problem in a kind of gendered context is, it's wonderful that there are events, it's wonderful that Music Board supports events like this, but what about the day-to-day like equity and like opportunities for people, women, people of color, whatever, that when it comes down to having a good name, having a professional career, what you get paid for? And then I'm sort of curious about what are the opportunities, like is it more economically lucrative for you to make paintings, to make music, and so on, and how does that relate to what you actually do and what you're happy to do?
I never tried to sell paintings, so I didn't sell any paintings. I sold one to a friend of my mother when I was 15. That's it. So somehow I became a stage animal, and it's my job also. So that's very clear, because all the money I earn is somehow related to the drums. If it is playing live or composing or sometimes software collaborations or sometimes working for a theater piece or a dance piece or whatever. So it's always related, and like the fees depend and differ very much on the context, and also, of course, I was not able to ask for the fee that I'm asking today 10 years ago, because of course I didn't have that much experience. I was not so clear about what I was doing. So, but I never felt like to go into this topic once. I never felt benachteiligt. What's that? Like any disadvantage because of being a woman. I know that other women in the art field have that experience, that they're getting paid less. I didn't have that ever, because if I was paid less than another act, it was, I think, because I didn't have a big name. I didn't, I was younger or whatever. I never felt this problem in terms of money.
No, okay, okay. We just got a 3-minute sign, and I was ignoring that.
Let's count down together.
Yeah, we're time traveling. We have 15 now. I think then I'm sorry that I did not open this up to the public. Katharina, would you like to have a final word? What would you like people to take away from this evening? And
My LPs. Yeah. I'm kidding. No, I'm very happy. I just want to say thanks for the invitation. It's a great event. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy that you came to listen to it, and I hope that this Corona thing will, soon be over in a nice way, so that we can again go to every event we want to and stand up and dance, and we will, into crowded places, and don't worry about all this so much. And I really hope that will be in the near future. This is my big hope. And I'm very happy that we are here today, even if it's with Corona. Yeah, to say that word 1 million times.
I think commercially we can also, your records and CDs are available to purchase outside, right?
Sorry?
One can purchase CDs and records outside.
Sorry. That was a joke also. I mean, you can, but you don't have to, obviously. Yeah.
Thank you.
Noch eine kleine Durchsage, wir machen jetzt noch eine kleine